Hi, my name is Dr. Patrick Garrett. Today I'm very excited about bringing this presentation to you for the My Clean Eating Challenge that's going on across this nation. It's a very exciting thing to be a part of because this is what I really do even in my practice. So to see such a national emphasis on changing people's diets to change their lifestyles, I love this. So, the first part of this challenge is to really introduce the concept of going back to raw, really introducing a lot more raw food into your diet. So we'll go through why that's important and the different aspects of that. But basically the goal is just to fast track, and that's the key, is to fast track you to reverse acute and chronic conditions naturally and to just feel great during the whole process. Food is so vital, and when we cook, we often change how that food affects us. So, first of all, for those of you guys that don't know me, I'm Dr. Patrick Garrett, of course. I practice in a little town in Newton, Kansas, but I actually treat patients from all around the world. And so, I've been honored to be a part of this program, and it really falls in line with what I do, even in practice. I've taught all over the nation, and I even taught a 300-hour postdoctoral program for physicians to really teach them how to do this clinical nutrition, integrated medicine, functional medicine. And it was really interesting because we really focused on food as medicine, and that's what the cleaning challenge is about. I have lots of education. I love all the interesting courses I've got to do. A lot of them through Harvard Medical School. They have a wonderful lifestyle medicine program. And I probably have about 16 postgrad courses from them on a variety of topics. And it's really good because it says, hey, this patient's suffering, what are they eating? That's the first topic, is what are they eating? What are they doing to cause these problems? And that's such a divergent compared to the medical aspect of dealing with people's health problems. Several of my courses I did at Yale Medical School, and they have a wonderful lifestyle medicine program too. I have plenty of diplomates and lots of education, diplomate American Board of Functional Medicine, Integrated Medicine, Clinical Nutrition. I even serve as a senior fellow for the Academy, where if we have physicians around the world that are part of our program and they can't figure out how to help a patient, we'll actually go through with them and work through the case side by side and help them get that patient better. So that's a really wonderful opportunity to help even serve our other physicians. I serve on several boards, and I'm usually past president, chairman of the board. I like being chairman. That's a great position. I've been selected to be on the Green Med Info board, and so like Dr. Mercola, if you guys know Joseph Mercola, he's a very popular guy in nutrition. He actually just joined our board, so we're very excited about that. And we put out tons of peer-reviewed, published information on nutrition and clinical nutrition. And otherwise, I'm a member of Harvard Medical School's postgrad since 2006, and a member of the Integrated Medicine, Functional Medicine, and Clinical Nutrition Societies. And I'm chair of the board of the American Board of Functional Medicine. And I'm also a member of the Physicians Committee on Responsible Medicine, which that's a very nice program to be a part of. So let's talk about our topic today. Raw is all about nutrition, about healing, about all these biochemical pathways that we have in our body, and they all are based on just these metabolic reactions that require vitamins, minerals, trace elements, phytosterols, phytonutrients, and flavonoids, and many other things. And those have to be in your diet for those things to work. It's kind of like if Bob was showing up to unlock the door, and then all the employees go in after Bob unlocks the door. Well, if you ain't eating Bob, then the rest of that nutrition is not getting anything done, right? So the first thing you have to have is actual bulk nutrition. And raw helps us get there faster. So we're going to talk about nutrient density, we're going to talk about enzymes, fiber, hydration, avoiding toxins and synthetic hormones, and of course avoiding additives. This is probably your cheapest medicine that you can ever do, is A, don't eat crap, and B, eat things that are going to heal you, right? And so the biggest focus is maximizing nutrition. And so the raw diet is all about eating things that have not been corrupted by either heat, which destroys very specific parts of the nutrition, or even using lots of chemicals in the process. I mean, something as simple as cooking an omega-3, which is a really beneficial oil. It's anti-inflammatory, prevents heart disease, cancer, diabetes, all these things. And you can even rub, fish oils on an arm and get rid of pain and inflammation. You can take it and get rid of pain and inflammation. But if you cook that oil just slightly above its smoke point, so for something like olive oil, it's 350 degrees. If you go above that and that oil starts smoking, the only thing that happens is one hydrogen on a double bond rotates 180 degrees. That's it. That's all that happens. But you just took olive oil and made it a trans fat just by cooking it a little too high. And with nutrients, that cooking becomes a big corrupter. There's a wonderful, one of the first articles ever published and presented to the Symposium Microbiology back in 1950s was the idea of heat changing the molecular structure or the protein sequencing and causing autoimmune or food allergies back then, right? And what they found is that as long as you had over 51% of your diet raw, you had the least likelihood of having actual food allergies. So that was interesting, because as you change those proteins, your immune system looks at these proteins and says, hey, is this normal or abnormal? And of course, if you're all mutated, you don't look normal. So we attack it just like a virus, just like a parasite, just like a fungus, right? But instead, we're attacking real food. So that chemical degeneration of the protein sequencing, that becomes a problem that corrupts our food. It doesn't mean we have to be 100% raw, but it just means we really need to put the cards in our best favor. We really need to stack the deck in our favor. So raw foods are also chock full of enzymes and trace elements and minerals and all these things. And the phytosterols, the phytonutrients, the flavonoids, the glyconutrients, and the vitamins, and even the enzymes are very heat sensitive. I mean, I think the only thing that really isn't is maybe like minerals and trace elements. Those are typically pretty heat stable things, but otherwise you're getting less nutrition with that. And so these nutrients operate all these pathways, thousands of pathways. I got a chart in my office that's 3 foot by 5 foot, and it's all the biochemical pathways in the body. And I have another chart that's like 3 foot by 3 foot, and that's every biochemical process that happens in each cell. And you have 50 million cells in the human body that depend on very, very basic nutrition. And if those vitamins and minerals aren't there today, even if you provide them tomorrow, you didn't recover from the first time you depleted those. And so you end up aging faster, you end up injuring faster. And so we want to reverse and we want to heal those things, but we don't get to replace what we've already didn't provide the body, if that makes sense. One of the best things I tell people to do, I love this idea, eat the rainbow, right? Not Skittles, right? That's not good. That's just a bunch of gasoline flavored, gasoline colored stuff that rots the brain and actually decreases your brain growth by up to 64,000% and can shrink your brain up to 10%. So we don't want to eat gasoline colored rainbow stuff, but real rainbow fruit, right? Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and berries. And eating the rainbow, eating color is really important. When it comes to eye health, like cataracts, macular degeneration, even glaucoma, all the things that reverse that oxidative damage in the eye are typically the things that are the most appealing to the eye. And so that's going to be, if you look at like grapes, should you do green grapes, should you do red grapes, or should you do black grapes, right? Or purple grapes. And so the darker that grape, the more nutrition that's in there. So green grape is, it's not going to do a whole lot for you. It's healthy, but it's not therapeutic quality, right? But that Concord, that dark, rich grape, that's why red wine is so therapeutic. But again, if you just did Concord grapes, that's just as therapeutic, right? You got to eat those skins, eat those seeds. Those seeds have antihistamines in them called grapeseed extract. It's proanthocyanidamides. Those are awesome. So you can constantly eat anti-inflammatories, so you don't have to worry about ragweed anymore, or hay, or grasses, or those kind of things, or cats or dogs, right? So every color has a different nutrition in here. And so we always want darker. So if you had like white potato, sweet potato, which is an orange, or a purple potato, well, the purple is obviously the most nutritious, then the orange potato, or the sweet potato, and then the white potato. And that's also why you don't want to take the skins off there, because the skins are full of nutrition too, and that's a really good thing. So we want to buy, like, look at a Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen, and really concentrate on investing our money and buying organic when it's necessary. But if you look at something like eggplant's purple on the outside. If you cut off that skin, it's white on the inside. That bulk of nutrition's on the outside, just like a white potato. So if we look at these different colors, it's really interesting, the different nutritions that are within those. You know, everything that's pleasing to the eye is healthy for the eye, right? But it's also healthy for the rest of the body, and that's kind of how nature is. It looks all beautiful out there in nature, all that green, and then here's these luscious red grapes. I want to eat those things, right? I see those bright yellow bananas and all that green. I want to eat those things. And so we are driven through evolution to want and desire to eat these things. But within the American population, the American cuisine since the 1800s, what we've really done is just kind of homogenize everything. And then people found that if you add food coloring, it's sold faster because it taps into that innate part of us. And so we just started flavoring and coloring with petroleum again, instead of just real actual colors. So like if you buy a strawberry shake in America, it's a bunch of chemicals that make up that strawberry flavor. But if you go to McDonald's in England and you buy a strawberry shake, it is strawberries that color and flavor that drink. So we want real actual food in its whole form with these heat sensitive nutrients to be in the most plentiful amounts possible. So lots of raw foods. So your red ones are really going to prevent cancer and inflammation. And although turmeric I would consider orange, turmeric's going to be really good. Red, you know, you can have your raspberries are going to be very good for that, and apples, like a red apple is full of quercetin. A red onion or purple onion, you know, it's going to have quercetins in there, and those are very powerful anti-inflammatories, anti-edema, naturally occurring medications, right, or medicinals. Orange have carotene in there, and the carotenes, of course, like carrots, those are the orange bionutrients in there, and those, of course, are very, very great for the eye. If you cut a carrot, it actually looks like an eye. I don't know if you've noticed that before. Yellow, you know, most people don't really think much about lemons, but or even limes, which are green, but they also follow in the limonene citrus. But those are actually anti-cancer, very, very powerful anti-cancers. And pineapple, the same thing. Pineapple has pinene in there, right? But it also has bromelain in there. And pineapple is full of bromelain, and that's mostly in that core, so don't cut the core out. And that bromelain is a very powerful anti-inflammatory. And also it's also a proteolytic enzyme that breaks down scar tissue. So if you want to reverse scar tissue damage, that's really beneficial. And of course, greens. I mean, we can't say enough about greens. And so greens, you have things like zeastaxanthin and lutein and tons of minerals, and you know the indole-3 carbinol foods, which you know tend to be like the brassica foods, like the kale, the kohlrabi, the bok choy, the chard, the spinach. Those have that indole-3 carbinol, and that is the basis of the anti-cancer diet, especially for like breast cancer. That's a very powerful part for that. And it actually, of course, everything that prevents that disease actually can cure the disease. So as it prevents cancer, it also cures cancer for lots of patients. And then, of course, the sulfur-rich foods, those are awesome too, because those are going to help protect the heart. The blue foods, these are like big, powerful ones for the eyes too. You know, bright blue is going to be just as important as the bright orange ones. And that's your bilberry, which is like the English blueberry. But any of the really rich blue-colored foods, they're not only going to be antibacterial. Like you can make blueberry kind of soup or blueberry shake if you think you have like a gut infection, and that'll help get rid of the gut infection. That's what I love. Food is medicine. Food is truly medicine. With the purple or indigo, you're back to your things like lycopene, which we usually attribute to oranges and some of our other colorful foods. And so lycopene, or sorry, your red foods, lycopene, because usually we associate that with actual tomatoes. And while store-bought tomatoes typically won't be very high in lycopene, ketchup will be. A healthy version of ketchup would be, because the tomatoes that are vine ripened aren't stable enough to take to the grocery store, so they mash those up and make them into ketchup. And so lycopene is actually more bioavailable or abundant in ketchup, of all things, So, lycopene is very powerful for the prostate and for the heart. Those are really well-researched ones. And whites, again, we say eat the rainbow, but, whites actually have some really good benefits. And so, not as exciting as the other ones, but you have quercetin like in your onions, your white onions. You can have quercetin in those too, and that's actually a very powerful anti-edema reducer, anti-pain natural medication, right? And then of course the aloe, that's going to be like garlic, and garlic has over 100 bioactive chemicals to fight virus, parasite, fungus, yeast, all those things. And so it has 100 mechanisms, whereas like a medication will only have one mechanism, and it's an easily defeated mechanism, which then ends up causing superbugs. So garlic should be the staple of any diet, just like it's the staple of the European diet. It should be the staple of the American diet. So what about nutrient density? Well, over here we have a chart to the right side, and we can look at raw versus cooked, right? Calorie-wise, it's going to be the same. Now what's interesting is you will actually have rats get fatter if they eat cooked potatoes versus raw potatoes, and that's just because as it's cooked, it's more easily absorbed because the cell walls are broken. And so even with healthy foods, if we overdo it, we could actually make people gain a little bit more weight than they normally would have, just because it's more absorbent. Raw foods take the most effort to break down, so they burn more energy in the process, and you get less calories with that, right? So the calories are the same in there, but you're going to end up burning more trying to digest the raw. So you can see in there, potassium, pretty big difference. Vitamin C, pretty big difference. Iron, pretty big difference. Calcium, same thing. So there's very few things that are released when it's cooked. The only things that are probably more healthy when they're cooked are things like tomatoes, squash, and carrots. But again, we're talking light steam, not heavily boiled or fried. You still want that light cooking, very slow, and that's going to preserve their nutrients. And so breaking down those cells' walls, you can see like on this one, folate's higher in the cooked one, but that's because it's going to be, I think this is squash or something like this. So that's what you'll see. And there's a great book called Eating on the Wild Side that goes through some of those too. So vitamins aren't heat stable, so if it gets too high, it'll actually just destroy it. So if you take raw carrots, you have the most amount of vitamin C. If you steam it, you have less. If you boil it, you have less. If you fry it, you have less. If you microwave it, you have nothing left, right? And so you can see as we go down that list on the left side, we deplete the nutrition. And so we can then, you think you're eating good. You're like, oh, I'm eating real actual food, but I'm microwaving it all. Well, you're eating food, but it's not nutritious anymore, And it's okay, on the cleaning challenge, past the raw part, again, when you cook, lightly steam, lightly saute, slow cooking, slow and low is the goal. Kind of like European cooking, if you will. Now, the other thing is, of course, the enzymes. Enzymes are easily denatured at about 108 degrees. And so, very quickly with heating, your average sauteing is about 300 and something degrees. low cooking is 220, so you're destroying those enzymes right off. So they're completely destroyed at 118. So it doesn't take much, right? So cooked foods require more energy to break down depending on what type of food it is. So you can see over here on the right side, there's a great chart where it looks like you have fat, and then you have lipase, and then you have fatty acids that break down from that. And you'll notice above the arrow there's a word like lipase, protease, and amylase. Well, the ASE on the end means it breaks down the thing in front of it. So lip is lipid, so it breaks down fat. The next one down is protease, and the ACE means it breaks down protein, which is protein. And the only one that's kind of weird is amylase. The ACE breaks down amylose, but amylose is sorry, I had a little glitch there. Amylase is just sugars, carbohydrates. So you can see that these things bound are the proteins, they're the starches, but then we just break them up into their simple form. That's why all starches are just sugar. And the average American in the U.S. consumes about 156 pounds of sugar a year. And during our talk the other day, we could see that there was like 20-something different ingredients within one boxed food that were all convert back to sugar. So ends up being very surprising for people. Raw is also about fiber. Fiber is broken down with heat, and that's why we saw on the chart before you can get more fiber with slightly cooked food, and that's because it's broken down and then it's more easily absorbed. But fiber binds to about 80% of the food's sugar, so you only absorb 20%. So like when they say don't eat grapes because it has too much sugar in it, that's not true. Grape juice, no fiber, instant sugar. But if you get 15 grams for a serving of a carbohydrate, a complex carbohydrate like fruit or vegetable, well, if it's with fiber, it's going to bind 80% of that sugar. You only get 3 grams of carbohydrates from that. So where does all the rest of the fiber and the sugar go? Why would the fiber bind all this sugar and not allow you to absorb it? Well, that comes into feeding your gut bacteria, right? And they sell this stuff called fructose oligosaccharides, and so they take the fiber out of food so we can cook food really fast, which just makes it sugar, and then they sell the fiber back to you when you have health problems, and they call it prebiotics or FOS or fructose oligosaccharides. And that's pretty jacked up because we basically change the food, we screw ourselves up, and then we have to go back and buy what they took out of the food in the first place, which is crazy, right? So fiber feeds gut bacteria, and that's really important because as human as you think you are only actually 1/10 human cells. You are more bacteria than you are human. You are 9 times more bacteria than you are human. And so those bacteria coat your inside and outside, and that's why you don't get sick all day long every day, because everybody is exposed to viruses, parasites, fungus, all these kind of things. But 75% of your immune system is your good bacteria. They fight those fights so you don't have to have a fever and feel sick. So we want to feed them. The other thing is when you eat real food, you get lots of fiber, right? That fiber is digested by the bacteria. The acids fermented makes about 20 different acids that makes it inhospitable for a bad bacteria to live, and so it kind of keeps everybody in check. But the coolest thing is that fiber breaks down from the bacteria and makes butyrate. And butyrate then goes to your DNA polymerase, and your DNA polymerase goes through and edits out mutations in DNA, which means if we have something as worse as a genetic disorder, our body is supposed to fix that DNA. If we have cancer, our body is supposed to fix that DNA. And if you look at like what happened in 2006, right? The American diet became the leading cause of preventable death. The American diet was now more toxic than breathing in 5,000 chemicals from cigarettes. And if you look at the cancer rates, it's the same thing. The number one and number 2 cancer for men and women are estrogen cancers, and so it's prostate cancer and breast cancer. But the second one for men and women is colon cancer. And we all have known colon cancer is just absence of fiber. So the fiber's not there, the bacteria doesn't digest it, it doesn't make butyrate, and we don't edit out mutations, and we get cancer, and we die. We die at insane amounts from something that's so preventable. And so nobody cares about this until lately, because they came out with a medication called butyrate. And so they have a trademark butyrate molecule with an extra little something so they could patent it, and now they can sell it back for cancer research, cancer treatment. Which, if you just do raw foods, you don't have to worry about that, right? Get your gut bacteria, support your gut bacteria, you know. Now, raw food is also about hydration. As I take a drink here, right? We want to be hydrated. We know that, like, the people are supposed to drink, what, 8 glasses of water a day. That's 64 ounces. Where did they come up with that number from, right? My kid's supposed to drink 64 ounces. My grandma's supposed to, everybody, right? If I'm 6'4", which I'm not, I'm supposed to drink, 64 ounces. If I'm 400 pounds, which I'm not, I should drink 64 ounces? No, that's crazy, right? So the number that's real is 50% of your body weight in ounces of water. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you need 50 ounces of water a day. So roughly, a little less than 2 quarts, right? And that number comes from the 1900s from Dr. Atwood and Samuelson, when they're the ones that started the FDA, and they came out with the figuring out how to make determine how many calories things are, which are pretty cool. And what they found out is that they took the average average college freshman woman, her weight, and the average college man weight, and they averaged those two together, added them together and divided by 2, and it came out to 128 pounds. And if you take half of that, it's 64 ounces, so the average person needs 64 ounces of water. But we're bigger now, and as a bigger population, we have more real estate, and you need more water for that. So water becomes very vital because everything works off water. 80% of your brain is water. 75% of your body is water. Up to 90% of your cells are water, right? And what's interesting is real actual fruits and vegetables are almost all water. So the average newborn is 90% water. The average elderly person is about 50% water. We lose that water. And if you look over the right side, you wonder why women get shorter over time. All it is dehydration. It's chronic subclinical dehydration over years of periods. And so all those little disc space between the knees and the hips and the spine, that fluid is stolen by the blood, because the blood says, look, if you don't drink enough, I will steal it from tissue, and your skin will get dry faster, right? It'll start wrinkling faster. You'll get tired faster. You'll get depressed faster. Everything that runs off water, and then it'll steal all the water from your joints, and you'll get slow, painful joints that end up start deteriorating and fusing together because of that. So water is vital. Water is really important, and the cool thing is fruit and vegetables are full of water, like up to 80% water. So when you cook those foods, you dehydrate those foods, and you get less water. So all those, fried vegetables or sautéed vegetables are going to have less water. You can actually watch them evaporate as you're cooking. The biggest thing I could ever emphasize is really raw is all about avoiding toxicity. So much of what we eat and drink in America is filled with chemicals that are banned in almost every country in the world. If we use the food additives that we use in bread to make it whiter and fluffier so we can make it cheaper and more profitable, in Singapore you could go to jail for that. You could get a $500,000 fine for putting in bread what we do every single day. And so most people are just eating themselves sick. Most people are causing all their problems. All the epidemics that we have, whether it's heart disease, cancer, diabetes, autism, they all look the same when you go back in history. We're all like epidemic now, but there was a sudden epidemic, and below the sudden epidemic, it wasn't much of a thing, right? You took cancer from 1 in 8,000 and made it 1 in 1. You took heart disease and killed 18 times more people with it. You take things like autism that was 1 in 225 million and you make it 1 in 40. And we did all this in a very short period of time. We have changed food more in the last 40 years than we have the last 40,000 years. And what we end up doing in America is we say, you know what? How can we grow it cheaper, faster, and for more money? And so we brighten the colors with chemicals made from gasoline. We flavor it with chemicals made from gasoline. We use things like Olestra so we can call it fat-free, and then people have, you know, what is it called? Sudden anal leakage, right? And you have warning labels on your chips or warning labels on these products that say, yeah, you should wear some dark colored pants so that you can eat fat-free potato chips, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, right? So, and they even suggested bringing extra clothes to work, extra set of clothes to work, right? That's really how we're going to fix this problem? No, we just add more chemicals to solve the problems from the last chemicals. So clean food is clean. It's simple. They don't have, you know, labels on real actual food. You know, I actually went down the, we like oranges, and one of the things is you look at the orange bag and it says, oh, it's, you know, color enhanced or preserved with all these horrible chemicals. But you can still get the ones that don't, right? And that's the key. Processed colors will make you dumb, right? You know, yellow food coloring can decrease your brain growth up to 3,000%. Blue can make it 5,000% decrease. MSG can make it decrease by 8,000%. Most of your fried processed food can decrease brain growth or overall brain size. Overall brain size by 10%. 10%. The average overweight person has 4% less brain mass than a skinny person or a healthy weight person, right? But it's 8% for an obese patient. Their brain is 8% smaller, and it's just that processed food. So we want clean food. Synthetic sugars destroy your immune system. Synthetic sugars are also, they turn to formaldehyde at 87 degrees. So that's not good. As soon as you injure your body, it goes from aspartame to formaldehyde. Fried foods make your brain shrink. We talked about that. Trans fats kill your heart, and that's just cooking above the smoke point. And so that's anytime you take a healthy oil and make it into a butter, like you'll see olive oil butter or something like that, or grapeseed butter, it's just trans fat. And so anytime you see like partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated, they heat it up to break the double bonds, add a hydrogen on there, and then it becomes more solid. Well, that's not real. That's toxic stuff, right? Gasoline flavors and colors, we talked about that, of course, and a lot of those are banned all over the world. You know, in Europe, there's actually warning labels on food if they use chemicals that we use all the time in America. They actually have warning labels like cigarettes on candy. And then, of course, the cooking the food destroys all these other things that help protect us from the toxicity. And so, you know, of all the pesticides and herbicides, you know, your average apple has about 200 pesticides sprayed on it. By the time it gets to your store and they cleaned it and washed it off and waxed it, it's still got 64. Those are things that destroy your endocrine system, destroy your reproductive system, destroy your brain, destroy your heart, and even kill bees. And so, yeah, that sucks. But one of the things that we see in the China study is that, yeah, if all you can get is this food that has these chemicals on them, the stuff inside is what protects you against those chemicals. If you eat processed food because, you know, fruits and vegetables have pesticides, you're screwed. You're getting junk, not nutrition. And so, and those are just as toxic, right? So look at the Clean 15, the Dirty Dozen, and that'll help you decide what you feel like you can invest in for organic and what you don't really need to worry about too much. And that'll help because, you know, you got to do it on a budget. You got to say what's real. And, you know, one of the things about eating raw or eating healthy is people will say, well, it costs a lot of money. And it's not, because the vast majority of the world, eats super duper healthy, flavorful foods that are insanely dirt cheap, right? But the other thing is Americans are so used to eating chemicalized food that isn't real that we don't understand what real food actually costs. And so, yeah, real food might take a bigger chunk out of your budget, but that's what real food actually costs. And even that cost in America is nothing compared to if you go to Europe or another country. Most countries pay a lot more for real food than we do. So we still have cheap food, but if you feed a cow corn and you sell that to people cheaper and they're eating 8 times more meat, that's inflammatory. That's not helping the situation. It's causing the problems, right? So we want to eat things that are in its raw form as much as possible. So what is raw food about? Well, in the end, it's the goal, right? We only do things because we want the effect. And the effect is awesome. Like, we see patients all the time that come in with 50 different things wrong. They're on 10 medications. Everything's falling apart. They've been to the Mayo Clinic and they got a great diagnosis and I don't know what to do to fix this, right? And then they end up on our doorstep and we do what a lot of the people in the Clean Eating Challenge do, right? We just tell people to stop eating crap and eat real, actual food. And that's the very beginning stage of what we do therapeutically in our office. And that's why I love the Clean Eating Challenge, because in the end, people very quickly end up with more energy. They always lose weight. It's like they always lose weight. And, you know, it's not trying. It's not gimmick. There's no gimmick. It's just you eat yourself into a better weight, right? All the diseases should just go away, because most diseases are just nutrient depletions. That's all they are. You're either eating more toxins than you can detox, or you're not getting basic nutrition to run basic biochemical pathways. And it helps balance hormones, because you're not going to eat for, you know, exhausted hormones anymore. You're not going to eat high glycemic foods just so that you can get, you know, your morphine in your bread and dairy, and you can get your cocaine addiction from things like that are packed with sugar, right? Especially improves memory, right? People with brain fog, oh, that sucks, right? To have your brain back is so awesome. It's very good. And, you know, anything that reverses disease will prevent disease. So your cheapest healthcare ever is to just stop being sick. And so all in all, you just want to get your life back. And I love this, because the cleaning challenge, right? My cleaning challenge, it is cheap compared to all the medication costs, all the healthcare costs, all the lost time at work and relationship, and the frustration with kids, and all these things that just frustrate our life. To be able to feel good every day, it's cheap. People pay $1,200 to do a medical version of this, where they use horrible stuff, right? This is just very basic food. So I love this whole process. You're going to do great. So please join us for the My Cleaning Challenge, right? And think of this as an investment in your future, an investment in the quality of your life, investing in your family, right? So every time you purchase something that's healthy, you are investing in your health. All right, I thank you guys, and I hope you really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. I am again a part of the national program, so I'll be looking forward to doing more talks with you guys, and otherwise you'll do great. Very proud of you guys for starting this journey.